Si baivek ule hei vo inchu kanu kipanu Mizoram aron thenga chumi chu interview hi mana changa ka tum to ni a chumi chu veina han hei kalauti lo ting thei don te che apathian khong ina zara kanu hi Mizoram akipane kanin ton ma de kum som paru kani changa inzui to kani a trong chai dam rong bol na te ron nei china cancer anat na a trong chai dam te pon om to Mizoram a hian chumi piala ma chuanin I Sarkar tinen po agriculture lang panga agriculture hi angay po mo Mizoram in tawdel turhan adu chumi chu sarkar tinen te po kumtam takan law thok haw to Zimbabwe chang te ram sang chang ten specialist te tikhan aron shwailo ta khatyang khan thingtlanga te lo nei tu te enkol ten khatyang khan om china chumi chu vo india achwanin enge local chan te athil tumbe te lalpana kaudan te karon zo do na lekin zela soyuzau du na po video dang kan siam zel don ni. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much Mom, for coming today. I had an introduction of like how we've known each other way before Kip and the things that we've done. So I just wanted to start. How did you come about Mizoram? How did you hear about it, and how God led you here? So you can just say as long as you want. And
okay, so it started back in 1996. God had called me to go to the Feast of Tabernacles in Israel, which I did. And when I was there, I paid for a subscription to a magazine that would come quarterly to my house. And so sometime during the following year, there was an article on one of the pages about people from northeast India wanting to make Aliyah, which means go back to Israel.
Right.
And I clearly heard God ask me to pray for those people.
Right.
From 1998 to 2007, I prayed for the Mizo people every day.
Oh, okay. So I'll just explain a little bit in Mizo, translate straight away. So, kumsang khadzakwa somkwa parukhan in Israel rama bok tekut mangin inge kazuzina tin sumo bok tekut khu Israel khwanan mang lianin mangro pui thei emema chumi chu Christian sang pon kal khom chini chuda chuan ka sutela khata khan magazine pakhat kha ka subscribe pa tia mo chumi a chuanin Mizoram atanga Israel leta ledle khatyang alien dita chumi chu khami thu kha anzia kha ka hmu ati chumi magazine a chuan chumi ka chhiar che atang chuan lalpan hemi te group mo hemin mizo te tan hian tong chai ro ti kha chiang de winal pan min shila chumi chuan kumsang kha chokwa sungkwa paria ta changa kumsang ni pasari thleng chuanin ni tin chol lawin mizo tan lalpa min ti angin ka tong chai sakani tin
So what was really interesting was sometime in 2007, I just felt the Holy Spirit saying it was now time to go to Mizoram, and it's a very hard place to get to Mizoram, especially back then.
Yes. Zanin kumsang ni pasari khan tharau thyang hi min Mizoram kal rot min tita kalai pheka chon Mizoram wa kal kha har sai emani Mizoram ron lukha.
And so it had, which it has again, but it had a protected permit for foreigners to be able to come here, and so I brought my husband with me because that seemed to be would make it a little bit easy. And just before we were coming to Mizoram, after I'd booked my tickets, all international tickets and all that, there was a very specific show on our national broadcast television station in Australia, and it was to my absolute delight. It was on Mizoram, it was on Isle, and it was on the controversy of the Christians in Isle converting to Judaism, and that happened to be the very assignment that I knew God had given me to come all the way over here from Sydney, Australia, through Galahadi and trying to get a permit there and all the other things that went wrong, which the full story, and just to tell the people here, don't convert to Judaism.
Kalai khanin kalhar emimitsu protected permit te kha hetun ang hianin online demo airport at khan ti thevelo go hatia te khan kalangaya chutang zongjong chu kan waipe kan pa ne khan ol samdeu monu paron kal kha chu ol samdeu antia an kan pa ne khan ron kal to han kanin puacha te khan flight ticket te ha kan leivek to a kan waipui vek to nu khanin Australia a TV a khan an national TV a khanin khanin chumi chu thil mak deu mai na thing zen zen lo he India po kil khor Mizoram po aizol chungchang kha TV khanin aron chhuak fu lo ni chu ka pa khan lo en fu lo wa kanu pasal khan chuan TV lo lan dan kha chuan mi soi du deuh controversy ve deuh mu khami kha te Mizoram Christian te Judaism sa khwana anin leta khate ang chungchang kha aron chhuak ani chu chuan khami khata che khanin alalpa ko na kha achiang ani te ha ka shele zwala achan chu khami topic che ron wai pui tur he Judaism a in let su ti ron soi tur khalalpa te kani kha aron fin fiani.
And the reason that was so important, and I think the reason that God sent me here, because I clearly understood who Jesus was, that he was the Jewish Messiah, and that he'd been sent to look for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, which is the northern kingdom. And so the Mizos fitted that perfectly, like they'd been found by the Welsh missionaries, and they had been found by the Good Shepherd, which we know to be Jesus Christ. And because of that, you know, there was no need to convert to Judaism because the Jewish Messiah had found you already. You know.
Chuan chumi chu keima kha chuan achiang emema khatianga in let su ti kha chu achan chu Israel te khwan an Messiah kha mo an Messiah kha Iswa kha ni ti khan ring lo ma se ke chuan in Messiah kha Iswa ni ti ring tu kani a Israel te rin dan chuanin an Messiah chuanin an unau nambo som te kha alon jong chuak turin an ring ta a chumi a chuan Iswa khan nang mani po ron jong chuak che chewa Welsh missionary te kal tlangin Christian na in leta lalpan Iswan aron jong chuak chewa khami kha keima kha chon ka mu fia wang khanin Iswa in aron jong hu to chewa Israel nambo Iswan ron jong hu to chewa Israel kal turin Judaism in le ngai lo ti ka mu fia ni.
So my husband and I came here. We didn't know anybody. You know, we went to CID the first day to register, and while we were driving around the city, we saw the sign Bet Israel, Jew and Gentile alike. So I realised it was what we would call in our country a Messianic congregation. So one that believed that they were part of Israel, but also believed that Jesus was Messiah. So.
Yeah, chuanin kan ron thleng che kha Mizoram a khanin kan nu pa khan tu ma shat kan nei lawa ron thleng khan CID registration ti tur an ti a chuan CID registration ti tur chuan kan pana khami konga khanin kan kal konga khanin heta signboard kalo hmuni chu board ta khan a inzia ka chuta inziak chu Bet Israel ti a inzia ka chumi hnuai a chuanin gentle te le Judah te hi hmun khat Iswa chuan hmun khat kan ni ti sign kha kan hmua Mirama Sabrama chuan Messianic congregation ti china chumi omzia chu Israel tha ni a in sha ma se Iswaring tu te ka oshanti na ni chu chumi chu an ni ti kha ka han sha.
Okay, so the very next day, my husband and I made our way back to the Bet Israel building, which is in Canteen Kuala, and which is a very distinctive part of Mizoram, so it's easy to find. Yeah. And when we went inside, there was two little old ladies, and they had, you know, very excited to see me. You know, rang somebody on their cell phone, and the next minute I'm speaking to a very articulate Mizo speaking perfect English, and he said, "I'm in hospital, please come and see me."
Chuanin atuka chuanin chumi sign na chu canteen kwalania kan panen chuan kan vakal ngala mu kala olsam arem chana wang khan chuanin kan valut kha upalam to Peter Pani phur deuh hin lo ma min lo an lo phur em chuan ka han thlen ve le khanin tumani phone a khanan phone a chuan min biak tir ni chuan phone a min betu chu English tham me English tham me le athu soidan po he fia deuh kha ania chuanin hei hospital a dam doina ko ma min lo kan thengem arantia.
So the day after that was, I think, was a Wednesday, and so I made my way to the hospital and went inside the men's ward. And as soon as I got there, there was a large group of people around one man in a bed, and I just knew by the Holy Spirit that that was the man I was supposed to speak to. And then there was a woman with a video camera, you know, who recorded everything that was said. And so I introduced myself, gave him my long, you know, hour and a half testimony, which he translated. And then I left, prayed for him, and then I left the hospital. And now this is what I heard later by both his daughter and then elders that were actually at the bedside, and they said that after meeting me, he cried happy tears and said, "Now I know everything I've been doing is from God." And then he just passed away, and that was 20 minutes after I'd left the hospital.
Chuanin chumi kavakan tu ni chu ni lai ni anial chang takin kalasya chuan adam do ina khanin civil hospital a khanin mi power ta khan kan vakala kan vathling che kha mi papa khatal oma kan tu lo nga ma chuanin ama khadam lo ka va mu che khan tharau thyang hi min hi ibyak tu nge chu ni ati kha min shila chuanin anupui in video lo la boka he video camera man lai lian ang che khan lo la boka chuan hemi te ka mu tur ni ti in ka sheng hala chuanin keima kha tunge ka ni te ka insoya introduction te testimony te kha ka pe a chuan da ka khat chuang da ka khat le chan velai kha kanin ko mani chuanin chu kanin kom lai po chuan adam lo ber chuan te khan tong akan tu zong le upa te kha tyang lo om ho zong kha tong ale sakve kani da ka khat le chan ve khan chuanin anua ka sha chu anu fe a afanu le khalaya om upa te lo om min shil chu kanin biak zo nu lok khanin ama kha he atrapa he lom na mit tuin khan atrapa tu ka thil lo ti zong hi lalpa atanga chhuak dikta ka lo ni ti khan tu na mi nu khanin aron tif shil fe ti in lom takin a hi mit tui ka khan he lalpa ina min kaltir na hi alo dika he alo lalpa ro ta lo ni ati kha asoya chumi asoi nu min som nya chuan a boral ta
So what happened next was that your cousin, so people will find out that you're the niece of the lady with the video camera who was married to Lal Chan Hima, and your cousin Fiona rang me and wanted to come and see me, but I realised her father had just died, so we came down to Canteen Quoll and that's when we were part of the condolences that were going on for Lal Chan Hima, and then that's how we got to be so involved with your family.
Yeah. Chuanin chu mi pa chu asoi chu dam lo chu lal Chan Hima sai lo kha ni ta chuan video lo la tu kha anupui ni ta anupui kha pimwani nya kani nya chuanin ka cousin te khan chu afano soi na chena soi khamo ka cousin te khanin kan lo mu du cha he lo kalna la sia kanon tlo du che an tia chuan khami khan I pa boral sia katya chuan avuina te kan ka vocal veta chu ta chang chuan chu tyang chu ni kanin shat chaudan chumo
so that was sort of the end of that our first 10-day trip. Your aunt asked me to think about taking her to the Feast of Tabernacles later that year, which I did. So Jennifer and Aunt Mwani came with me to the Feast of Tabernacles. I've got an amazing story about how I got home by vehicle from Gawahati, but we don't have time for that today. Many miracles have happened over the years, which you know about. So the following year was 2008, and your aunt was doing a Jubilee conference because the bamboo was 50 years old, and it was 50 years since the famine that then led into the 20-year civil war. So, and we even met people here at Chatlang Tourist Lodge who were over from the Indian government, making sure there wasn't a second famine, and the precursors that caused the first famine and the civil war weren't going on. So that was a very real thing. So your aunt was doing a Jubilee conference, and I brought a small 6-team Australians women to be part of that conference. At the conference, I sat next to Zai Tang Chuni, and she invited me back to her house. So that's how I met Zai Tang Chuni. But the more interesting thing was later in the week we did a Passover celebration, and in the middle of the celebration we stopped and we did a mock wedding. And so the mock wedding was like a prophetic wedding. It was to signify, Jesus marrying the church. And so what we'd done was that we had one Mizo girl as the bride, and we had bridegroom, and we had bridesmaid and groomsmen stuff. And so we did that prophetic thing there. And then 2 months later, one of the girls that was with me decided it was a really lovely thing to do, and we did the same sort of thing in Sydney. And so that'll become... So the important thing about that was that you were the bride in Mizoram in 2008, and my son, who's now your husband, was the bridegroom also in 2008, but back in Sydney. Yeah. And you still hadn't met each other or really even knew about each other at that point, did you?
Yeah.
And so that was an amazing thing. So I'm just talking about that because it just shows God's heart for Mizoram, to bring you and my son together in that way when you had both modelled a bride and a bridegroom. How many years earlier? It was 9 years earlier, wasn't it? Before you got married. And, I think what's important about that is God's underlining something he wants to say to Mizoram as a whole, which is he's wanting to marry the bride of Mizoram. So God's heart for the Mizo people, and the Mizo church and everything to do with Mizoram, he's showing you through the marriage of you to my son.
Yeah. Chuanin asai deuh hlek anga tle min kan kai toy dewa mo khami kha chu a she thiam chin kha chuan she thiam thonga asai ta ka chuan tikhan kan ron kal masak ber te khan inge vuina te khatia angsun te kha anita chuan akum lia khanin kham akum lia khanin kanu hianin kani le ka zen te kha Israela buk te ko bok te kut mang to khan ashwai le ni chu chuanin chumi dota chuanin kani khanin aizola hianin mautam jubilee ti kha conference kha akawa chuta chuan khovel sang ram sang Israel mi ambassador te pon ron kala chuan kanu po hian Australia mi paruk aron shwai boka chuta chuanin pizait mi khwal khan ron kalve no la chuan pizait than chung electric venga mi kha alo telvia kanu te kha pizai than chung khan so e tu khan a som ta chong khatyanga in che chau kha anita tuna po a chen na nita chu Australian nu paruklain local chuanin Mizoram khanin ti dam rong bol na te thil sang khan ne chuan chuta chuanin kalhen ku ti hi oma kalhen ku ta khanin engemani khan wat sai ni choi in ti hlim na te khamia khan chuanin khamia khan drama chan ang chi type de khan an ti ta chumia chon prophetic wedding ti ni ta omza chuanin lal iswa in caution mi te an nei du mo lal iswa hi amo pa ni amo nu tu khata ang kha kami kha entir na kha in nei na lem ang chi kha kan changani chu ta chuanin mo nu kanya khami chana kham kala no pang lu tuk chu kum som pasari po kumso pasari ve kalanita kami khan monu le ma han ka changta chuanin kan kami khan nuaman tilu tuka Australian local te khan than til to kan thil kan ti hau kha chuan Australian led khanin anti vele ni chu kami in nei lem ka iswa le iswa mopa ang mo ke ma ni monu ang khatyang ko shan te monu ang khatyang amo ti ang entir na kha chuanin Sydney khan anzu ti velia khata khan magdeu main kipa tu na kan pa hi kipa kha mopa khan no chang vele cha chumi chu asoi kanun ka soi tum chu ati chu hei ti khanin lalpa in Mizoram pathian in Mizoram ahmangai dan le Mizoram ada shandan hi aropui em atini choi ke mani kan nu pa kanin tondan te po hi hei khatia uncle tlang khan Krista le akau shante entirnan mangkhan bulchan na kha anita chumia chuanin Mizoram hi lalpa hianin mawa adu cheu le akau dan cheu hi ronti fia tu rin mi ron tirani athini chu
It's quite a story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the following year, I felt like I should come over to Mizoram for an extended period of time. And because I'd met Sai Tang Chuni...
Oh, 1 second. I haven't finished that one. Okay. I forgot that we hadn't met before.
Okay.
Chuan khatyang lai chu mi in nei lem kan chan chu ta chuanin ki pani han kan lai mulawa kan lai shilo shim mo kami te ha kalo sai me.
And the interesting thing about that was I didn't know that you were the bride until Jane told me.
Jane told me.
So I knew Kip was the bridegroom, but I didn't know you were the bride until
you found out
later.
Close to our wedding, isn't it?
Much later. And I didn't put it together until your aunt asked me to make a speech, and then I thought, that's a good story, and then afterwards I realised it's a very good story.
So it's kan du pokan mo nu kan ni de kha lo thei hil to ni chuma ko ta an ju ti le pokan kan ni nei don na ya chau kan mo nu ke ma ha mo nu kan ki pa kha mo pa ni ti kha hey an shi chhuak chau.
I'm not on Facebook, but my friend Jane is on Facebook. And when my son eventually proposed to Moi in Thailand, which was another amazing story, she put up on Facebook, I always wanted Margot to be my mother, and now she will.
That's right. And now hey katuna kanu hi hey nu nei lawa Thailand kan ni wang yanin ka tle rol tir te changa nu anga ke en le fa anga min en ani china ka chu min en kol tur te han Mizoram ate ron rei china hey Australia po lekha kum som paser ke han lekha zir tur na chu te po chu min boy pui vek to admission te po ka min boy pui vek to ma se anu khanin ka pi dam lo wang han ka kalngam ta lo he ka pi ka san ha ka she wang khan ka dita ka tan de khan he chumi kanin ka pasalina in natura min so mathala ka posa chan he kanu hi kanu ka ti chin he kanu tak ani to don ni hi ti khan ka posa
and of course that was after your grandmother had passed away. And your grandmother was a very good friend of mine.
Yes kapi nen khan kapi min en ko Thailand tu nen khan nen ko he ko mo kan no
so you didn't really have a mother figure at that point, did you?
It's exactly. And even before that, even before my grandma passed away, a lot of times, my dad would never allow, I never go out anyway at night, but even for Dr. Dennis ministry, my dad is like, it's too late. But whenever it was you, it's like, she's your mom, you can go with your mom, So that was like way before even my grandma passed
away. You never told me that before. Okay, so let's get back to the timeline. So 2009, I felt like I was supposed to come over and stay for an extended period of time, and I'd met Annette, Zai Tang Chuni's daughter, who lived in the United States, and I was bringing my 11-year-old daughter with me, and I just felt it would be a lovely house, a safe house, and Annette would understand Western children because she lives in the United States and looked after children there. And so I just felt it was a safe place to come to. And so I came and stayed at Electric Veng for 4 months in 2009.
Chanin sang ni le pakwa khanin afanu no pangber ki panau ki kumsom pakhat chawanya chumi chu aron shwaya Mizoram khanin chumi achan karon shwaya chan po pizai than chungi te na khan om tur khan an local ta pizai than chungi fanu hi USA khwanin kum tam tak lawm to ni wang khan sab no pang en kol dan tur te sab no pang om dan te kha asiat ka ringa chumi ni wang chan ina khan thali kan oma tin chu.
So that was me bringing my daughter there, and so so what I thought was going to happen was I was going to continue to do Israel things because it had been Israel, and don't convert to Judaism, understand who you are. So I'd done that all on the 3 previous occasions. So I was expecting that to happen this time. But on the first day I was here, your aunt took me to see your great aunt, who was very sick, and my 11-year-old daughter had a vision, and I interpreted the vision and then prayed a very simple healing prayer for her, and she got up, ate something, drank a cup of tea, and then got up and started making tea for all of your relatives that were there because they thought she was going to die. And so it was quite a miracle. And so the next, is she still alive? Yeah. I saw her 2 years ago.
She's the only sister alive.
So how old is she now?
She's 90. I think she's turning 94. So.
She was 92. 2 years ago. And so she's still alive after that prayer, and that was it was 2009. And so it was really quite amazing. So anyway, the next day over at Electric Veng, knock, and there's people come for healing prayer, and so the rest of the 4 months I was spending praying for people, going from house. I taught healing how other people to pray for healing, and you were one of my team.
Yeah.
You came everywhere with me
Yes.
praying for the sick,
Yeah.
and we go into hospitals, we go to people's colonies and pray for we
Villages,
spent villages. We see lots of people got healed. People very sick with cancers and all sorts of things. It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was really good. Chuanin chu sang ni le pakwa chuan chu thali omni chu Mizoram chuan khamia karon sang ni pakwa karon kalpo khanin he Judaism ma in let's Christian in na Judaism ma in let's Christian in omra uti chungchang le he Israel chungchang bo kha karon barpui le don mokatia tia ma se akaron thlenni khanin kapi kemapi tak kapi nau che hi dam lo ni chu tarve to khami kha engma po thei to lawa kami kha hei boral to tura kan ngai in po chungte zongjong ron kal ron thukhom to hei wai me thuthleng ron da to angchi khania chumi chu chungtrai tu khan kan ni khana soma an vakala ni chu kan vake ma po katel kala cha chan chua chuan ki panaw bo hi kumsom pakhat le kan ya chuan chungtrai tu ka khang ki panaw khanin hei vision mo lalpai min hmu tira ti ni chu kumsom pakhat chania lalpa min hmu tira chon kapi hi mi chu kongil dewa kongil olsam dewan kala ani chu kongkoi dewa she om dewina kala ma se akalna kha akal kong dik zo kan ya ti khan aron soihlol ni chu chuanin khami kha kanu khanin a umzia te kha a shilfia ta a fanu zok chei chu ngi umzia hei lalpa ne na kan kal kong chu a koya she om ma se a poimo zia ti vel a shilfia chuanin adam na to khan an chungtrai ngalan nu fa khan chuan kapi kha chople chil khan adamani chu ran khatanga boral to don motia chung te ron kal khom po khati khan athawa thil po thei to lo khai bal hlat te kha ron pe a chuanin thingpui te kha aron tia te khan cha achhal to kani chu chan tun thleng hian an una wa ma che dam to kum som kwa pali don ni to khai khatya khami kha abul chan na kha ani ta ni chu kum sang ni ba kwa chan khami kham min an lo chan mi the atu ka chang khanin electric via chan chongtrai turin chongtrai dam du khan mi khan aron pan na sa eme ma hi cancer te le na khe khan tak te ha anron pana te khan lo chongtrai thina ti dam rong bol na kha ane chhauchan ta ti dam rong bol na nei ba ka khan engtin nge mil chunga kut ngata swami nga ti dam dan tu te kha zer tir chhauta chan ta chon te khan tim kan ni chu ke ma phan ka zui ve a ti khan dam do in mun sang ate kan kala thingkang mun sang ate kan kala khati khan lal pa khan khali chung chu khati zong zok khan alo mangta ni
So that was so I spent nearly all my time going from place to place for those 4 months, and at the same time Zaitang Chuni was selling her book that she'd just written was Mizo Israel Identity, because of course Zaitang Chuni was the researcher that had been researching whether the Mizos were Israel, and and some of her research had helped the rabbis in Israel come to that conclusion as well, so they agreed with her. So she was a very important researcher.
Chuanin akatiang lai khan chu apizai than chung te na chuan an thlengta pizai than chung chu in shat tur chuanin Israel Mizo identity ti le khabuzyak tu khani ta chuanin Israel te hi Mizo te hi Israel nambo kan ni rengem ti kha ama kha researcher ani ta ni chumo azira ti khan thingklang mun sang akala mi ko ma ti khan history te kha azir na sa khami kha Israel apo rabi te po khanin an lo huwa te khan an changkai pia rin na tam tak kha apek pha khami at I jang khan an ma kha anuro pui le nupoi mo mania.
So I said to her just before I was going back to Sydney, we need to sit down and talk because we've been busy. You're there, and I'm going off to these healing meetings every day, and so it just so happened that her sister had a very bad accident, and she was looking after the Zunin at the market.
Yeah.
And so there we were sitting down in Zunin at the desk.
Okay. Yeah.
and she's she's telling me her story. So it was very, very funny because people would come down the stairs and see me.
Yes.
It was a very funny place for a foreigner to be sitting. But she, so I was asking her story, and she started to tell me that 1994 at the Centenary Conference when Richard Warmbrunt had come over as one of the key speakers for that celebration, that she had written a little article for him, and she'd met him at the Assam Rifles.
Right.
She prayed and then he walked past her, and so she met him, and he'd heard about her and wanted to meet her. And so she gave him an article talking about people from northeast India wanting to make Aliyah, that is, go and live in Israel. And I realised she's the author of the article that I read in 1997.
Yeah.
And so once again, it was this miraculous connection of she wrote an article, it was published in Voice of the Martyrs, republished in another magazine. I read it, and now I'd been staying at her house for over 4 months, and then I found out she was the reason that God had spoken to me through that article.
Yeah, okay. So, John, Ropi, Kanu Kaldan here, Ropi, Emahe, Till Mak Motor here, Atam Chin, so to me, John Pakachu, to Pizza and Sunday, John Katlinga, Atia, and in the can Akaboy, Emma, poor boy, Emma Kanin, Moganin Bepan Lawama, say, Kahodon, Naya Kanin, a zoom in, Auna zoom in here, and Colchina to me, John, Auna Nudam Lovan can, and Colpini, to my Pizza can, to me, John zoom in a canin, can Dona Tanin, Kanin, Comatin, it's a hey, Kamia Kanin. Enge kan thu kan han soi hau khanin ama chanchin te khamin han silveta ka chuanin kumsang kha zakwa songkwa pali amoni khan Richard Warmwell kha Mizoram centenary mangtu khan aron kala chuta chuanin kanin muwa kanin mufua chuta chuanin hei khami Israel Mizo Judaism anin le chungchang te kha soe khami kha article ka zia ka pe ati ni chumo chumi chu ka Mizo chungchang kha chan pizai than chungi zia chu lo nya chan Richard da chuanin magazine A Voice of Martyr tia khanin alo chut chwatira chan khami khata an chut chwa kha magazine dang yan lo copy vele chonga khami an copy vele chong kha kumsang kha zakwa sumkwa pasaria Israel ram a magazine zu chiar chu ni ta ni chu omja chan kumsang ni pakwa kumsang kha zakwa sumkwa pasari khan khami magazine a thu inzia wang khan lalpan a betalal pan he mi thi chong trai pui ro atita chuanin kum sang ni le pakwa ade ni chu kumingzat kal kumson pani nuwa de khanin aziak tu nu te na chuan thali chuang alo cheng reng to a mase aman zia ni ti po alo la chelo ni chu pathia ni na thil a connect dan chu mo thil khatyang kha chung chu te ang chei aro pui he lalpa thil tum a chian dan kha ro pui ni
So it's pretty amazing. The and probably so I came back the following year. Hepzibah, my daughter, came with me, and over the next I think from probably 2010 or 11 till 2012, I was doing helping the government here, trying to do agriculture in villages and things like that. And so the next really place to pick up the story was after Zaitang Chuni's husband had passed away. The family had asked me if they take her to Israel, because she was fretting because her husband had died, and I did, and that gave her a new lease on life. And then she'd asked, we talked many years before about what, her aspirations were, and one of the places she wanted to go to was Thailand. So I took her over to Thailand, and we met some of the hill tribe people there who you've also met now. So the Karen, the Lahu, and the Liso, and these are all hill tribe people that are similar to the Mizo people. They also have a lost book story. They also have a one true God story. So somewhere back in that distant past, that they were all probably the same group of people. And she wanted to meet them, and I took her there, and we met them.
Right. Okay. So that was 2014. Okay. Joining kumsang ni le som te sang ni le som pen de join Mizoram kron kal de join sarkar nen agriculture chungchang kan thukhawa atia join sarkar aron pui ve china joining chumin huwa join kumsang ni le som pale khanin pizai pasal chu abora la wang khanin achung te khanin ruti ti thovenan khan Israel rama jin sian tia kanu chuan strai ta ni chumo Israel rama khan joining kata khanin thu te khan soya ti khan enge apur thar emma pizai pokha chuanin Thailand a hianin kalkat achak thu te kha soya Thailand a khanin ashwai le bok kanu khanin Thailand a chuanin tlang mi te mo tlang ke mani ang deu tlang rama cheng te tlang mi te kha an han mu a chu karen haute la hu te kha tang ke mani mel point ang in chaina point ang ele in point ang kha ile enge le khabu bau mo le khabu bau chanchin te he e win lo ea savun kor kha tang le ka in a chen kha chuan shang kha te ang thon thu te kha an lo ne mi zo ne khan in an na khan nga kan lo nga lu tu ka chu mi chu e mun khat chang ve ka lo kal nyang a ti ngai to na mang khan ngai to na seng khanin pizai chuan a han tlo ni chu
So I brought Pizai back to I was on my way from Sydney back to Thailand, so when we met in Thailand, I brought her back to Mizoram, and the first thing she did when we got back to her house was give me 2 books and ask me if I wanted to read them, because I think it finally dawned on her that I was doing a similar thing to what she was doing. I think, first of all, I think she just thought I enjoyed staying at her house, which of course I did, but really it was the Israel thing that was the important thing about that.
Yes. Chanin ti khan kanun hota ki ton ho kha e kan chan le khabu pani char do min tia ti ni chu mi chu Israel chung chang kha atir kha chan an in kha nuam ka ti wang khan ka om chawo mo kha tia Israel lam pang kha e ka tui ti kha lo she lawa chan khata kan hanzina kan han soi hawa kha chan ka tui ti kha ashitani chu
that was really important, because when I read the books, and one of them was by a rabbi who's been over to Mizoram several times, so not only was he writing about the Mizo being the tribe of Manasseh, but he was also writing about a group in China near Chengdu called the Qiang, and he was quoting a Scottish missionary from 1930. So I Googled, who the Scottish missionary was, and then rang Princeton Theological Seminary in the United States, and they had his book. And so they Xeroxed it and they sent it to me. And it's an absolutely amazing book, because it actually, without a shadow of a doubt, shows that the Qiang near Chengdu 100 years ago were ancient Israelites. No question, they had a Moses rod, they recognized the scriptures as being their own. There was just multiple things, and anybody who wants to get a copy of that book, they can just contact me, and I'm happy to give them a copy of that book.
Oh, great, okay. Chu mi le khabu min pek apoi mon chu khami le khabu khan Rabbi Israel mi Rabbi ina ale khabu zia ania chu ta chuanin enge mizo chanchin po oma ma se apoi mo zo ka chanin kita China a Chengdu China a Chengdu khwa a khyang mi te an hing chu khyang ani chu q ang khana in chana chan khami khyang mi te kha chanchin kha azia ka ni chu chanin chu lai chiang mo Chengdu mi te chu bula chai missionary omve ni chu sang khat le zakwa le som thum khan chu missionary pa chuanin chiang hau kha an omdan ti an thil nei te an man ruwa te kha Israel tenen ain ang lutuk ti kha mu chwa ka she chwa ka ni chu an thil omdan kha so an mani hi Israel khan ne lo mon le ti khan alo zira chuanin le khabu te po kha azia ka chuanin Princeton a kuta US a khan theological seminary a khanin ale khabu zia po chu alo la omani chu chuan alo la oman tia chuan ka zu konte ka chu mi Princeton seminary po chu ka zu konte ka chuan ale khabu zia po chu an lo la nei nge ya chuan chu mi ale khabu zia po chu min ron xerox saka mi ron thona ni chu mi a po chuanin chu mi a inzia ka chhera chuan a chian chu khilaya China a Chengdu bula khyang te chu Israel tha te an ni ti kha ein ziak fel vek to ni chei mosia hun lai mi thil te an ti dan kha tradition chang kha an lo la chom nunga chan khi mi te khi Israel kha an ni ti kha achiang ma kha mi le ka bu khanin adu vein om chan a copy min ron dil don ya tin.
Okay, so out of reading that book, God started to speak to me again about going to China and trying to find that people group, and of course Pizai was one of her things that she wanted to do as well, and so I decided to go in November of 2016. On the way to China, I had to go via Israel because I was attending the second B'nai Yosef, which means Sons of Yosef Congress.
Right, okay.
And what's important about the B'nai Yosef Congress is that there's a whole group of people around the world recognizing that the House of Israel, which is the 10 tribes of Israel, has to be an entity on its own, apart from the House of Judah, which is the Jews.
Right,
So there's many groups around the world doing that at the moment, and this was one of the key groups doing that.
Okay. Alright. So chuanin leipa khanin lekhabuka chair chang khanin China rama khan hanzir chang tu kha min kaule a chuanin bizai po chu kalve du wangin ti khan kan han ti dun le a chuan khami China kalkunga kakal tur kha Israel ka kalma sapota chan chu khalai khanin Israel khanin benei Joseph ti kha umta chu mi omja chu Josepha fate group ti nang mo khami kha anita chumi omzia chu khami group om din na chan chu Israel nambo som khan omta khami kha chu nambo som te kha anita nambo som te group ani chu mo chumi chu benei worship ti chuan khami te khanin House of Judah hey Judah tha te le khami a nambo Judah tha chu pani kha anita chuanin le a nambo tha som te chu a group kha he a shan pa omangai ni ti kha har chhuana oma chumi chu Judah ni lawa Israel nambo som te mo khami chungchang soi tur kha conference to anti ta ni chu.
So around about the same time I was also invited to sit on the board of the Commonwealth of Israel. So it had 12 board members. 6 of them were from the House of Judah, and 6 of them were from the House of Israel. And so I was one of the people from the House of Israel because I was representing people like the B'nai Manasseh in Mizoram. So I was well known by that stage from my work here.
Okay. Chuanin chuta chuan of Israel ti a omta chuta chuan kanu kha board member ania board member kha som pani an thlangta chuta chuanin Paruk chu board member Paruk kha chu House of Judah mo Judah lampang ani chu Judah lampang soi tu turte Judah lampang represent tu turte anni a chuanin Paruk dang le chu House of Israel an tani chumia chuanin Judah ni lo Israel khatyang entinan benei menase te khatyang hei mun shanga kuvel ram shanga Israel lo bote khami ang te chungchang soi tu kha ani a chuta khalai khun atang khanin mi hianin heta kalau na thote mo khatyang kalau zir na te kalau zin kwal na te kha min lo she chhowe chana.
So on my way back from Israel in 2016, I came to Mizoram. I collected Zaitang Chuni and her daughter baby, and we went, and then we flew into Chengdu, and our hope was that we would find the Chiang Min, the Chiang, the Chiang of the Min River. Just before we went to China, we'd heard about a lady called Esther Chen, who had written a book on the Chiang. I'd heard that through from a Scottish lady who does Chinese translations, and I'd also heard that there was a Chinese researcher who was researching Reverend Torrance's work from 100 years earlier on the Chiang, something which I had also done.
Right, Reverend.
And so we flew in. So there was 6 of us eventually, friends from Australia who, one of them was Chinese, so she was the translator, her husband Eddie, my best friend Jane, who you know really well, and then Zaitang Chuni and baby. So we had 6 people in our team, and we arrived in Chengdu hoping that we would meet Esther Chen and this other Chinese man.
O chuanin ti chuanin Israel tang chuanin heta pizai than chungi le afanu baby te kha tenen chuan Chengdu lampan chuan mo kan han kalta Chengdu a chuanin Chiang Min Hau Min River ni chumo Min Lui bulami Chiang Hau te mu be sein kan han kalta chuta chuanin kan thlen khanin conference omti kan chele a chuta chuanin S30 ti hi oma S30 chuanin S30 chu a chan nu Scottish changa asia tani chu chanchin chumo S30 chuanin Chiang Hau khami Chiang Hau kha khami te chanchin kha alozir chiang chia le khabu te po alozyak to ni ti an sia da wang khanin mutu khan an han kal le ta chanchin in she bel durin.
So I was because I'm at Pisai's house at the moment, so we're retelling stories.
Oh yes. Oh, once again, I forgot to mention Jane and all. Chuanin chuda chuanin hei ama kanu best friend Jane ni tele midang chu anvain paru kani chumo an.
Okay. And so so I was just reminding Annette and Baby about some of these stories the other day, because we were at one of the nicest hotels in Chengdu called the Ascot Raffles, and it was as nice as the name sounded, and I'd got a very good price on it. So you know, and but the first night, Pisai said, "Margot, we're wasting time. Why are we in this hotel? Why aren't we up in the mountains looking for the Changmin?"
Oh right. Yeah. Oh, chuanin chu mani khan he thanthui kashe chwak le zo ka tini chu Pisai te fanu le kalau shila khami khan hotel nom lu tuk mo he 5-star hotel thengai chu hotel nom lu tuk Ascot khan an thenga chu chu anom lu tuka khami kha kan thlen khan in Pisai chai ngatinge hotel la hianin hun kan khoral mai tla nga kan London lo mi kan kyang ho chu kan mudon lo mi ngate hun kan khoral tia ka ngai to chwak thu ta the.
Yeah, but I'd had a prophetic word before we came that I was supposed to have fun.
Oh,
you know, so we was, you know, to live, you know, God says that sometimes we're supposed to have fun. You know, we were staying in this luxury hotel, and there was a swimming pool the whole length of the hotel, and there was bakeries and coffee shops, and it was really good. And anyway, the next morning Pisai said, "Oh, I guess it doesn't matter if we're here 3 more days. You know, how can we find these people unless God helps us?"
Chani chu tanga hei alo han mo lai cha ke ma kha chan hei dal pan hei hun nuam tak mang turin min du vea ti kha ka she changa tin chal pan hun nuam tak mang la tia hei a hotel te kha a swimming pool te kha hotel kha tan azau lu tu kan swimming pool khai top thailo de thong khan tan azau cha chung a han bakery te oma a coffee shop te oma ka ta zong khalal pan hun nuam tak mang tur min te chang chon lal pa hen hun nuam mang tu hian mi hi du ve china ti chu chumi chu an Pisai chon ni thumpo om belela nge poilal pan min kan mu tur te min mu ti lo cha kan mu thei don chang lawa atia